Today, we're showcasing some of the craziest clips we've ever featured, so buckle up for Wham Baam Teslacam's Worst Drivers of Europe, Volume 1. Lasse was driving his Model Y in Finland. He had autopilot engaged and set to 1 mile per hour over the speed limit. Apparently, a semi-truck driver didn't find that fast enough, so he decided to pass him. But he was surprised the truck driver didn't cancel his attempt after spotting an oncoming car. Lasse moved out to the shoulder and a collision was avoided. What a dumb move! On New Year's Eve, a driver caused this shocking accident by driving a rented Tesla Model 3 while under the influence. The driver entered an intersection at high speed and lost control before taking down a traffic sign, a fence, and a shed, finally crashing into a parked excavator. The driver and 3 passengers were mildly injured, but everyone survived the crash. The car was totaled and the property damage exceeded $100,000. It's estimated that the Tesla had been traveling at over 90 miles per hour at the moment of the initial impact. The Tesla's safety systems, along with its strong frame and body, significantly protected the occupants from sustaining any serious injuries. Max was driving his Model Y on a country road outside of Berlin, Germany. That's when a driver 3 cars ahead of him suddenly stopped and pulled right onto a dirt road without signaling. Max and the 2 drivers in front of him were able to brake in time, but the guy behind him wasn't paying attention and wham! The Skoda smashed into Max's Tesla at around 30 miles per hour. Max kept his foot on the brake during the impact, and that stopped him from crashing into the car in front of him. Emergency services were notified, and they sent everyone. Luckily, everyone involved was okay. Let's get the counter up and see how many firefighters are in this picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wow! The driver who'd slowed down to take the turn, effectively causing the entire accident, had taken off. That driver wasn't found to be at fault, however, so it wasn't considered leaving the scene of an accident. The driver of the silver Skoda was determined to be responsible, and their insurance provider paid for all the damage. The Tesla certified body shop was paid around $25,000 for the repairs. Joe was driving his Model Y in Glasgow, Scotland, when a semi-truck abruptly merged onto the highway, forcing a car into Joe's lane. Joe swerved to avoid it, nearly losing control in the process. Thankfully, he managed to regain control and avoided crashing into the guardrail. Now that was a close one. This Model 3 owner was driving in the left lane of a highway, planning to overtake a couple of semi-trucks up ahead. The driver of a pickup truck behind him grew impatient and passed him on the right, nearly running him off the road in the process. The submitter told us that in Denmark, it's illegal to overtake on the inside, and the fine is $200 plus a point off your license. It's also illegal to drive in the passing lane without overtaking traffic, and that fine is $100 and no points off your license. Our submitter admits they were both in the wrong in their own ways, but he thinks running someone off the road is a much more serious offense than staying in the passing lane. He's considering sending his footage to the police, but he wants your advice. Let him know what you think he should do in the comments below. Martin was driving through a town when the car in front of him stopped at a crosswalk to let pedestrians pass. Because the roads were slippery, he'd been keeping a safe distance and managed to stop in time. Then he glanced in his rearview mirror. A Mazda driver failed to brake in time and swerved to the right to make space for a van that had locked up its brakes. Unfortunately, the van still slid into the back of Martin's Tesla. Martin says he felt the Tesla brake by itself when he was hit, which prevented the car from being launched into the oncoming lane. Martin wasn't injured, so he got out of his car and rushed over to check on the van driver, who was also unharmed but in shock. Martin tried to calm down the van driver, reassuring them that nobody was hurt, which was the most important thing. When Martin returned to his Tesla, he discovered that it was connected to emergency services through the speakerphone. The firefighters and police officers were impressed by how the Tesla's structural integrity and safety features affected the outcome of the crash. Later, while the car was being loaded onto a tow truck, a passing Tesla hater shouted, "Ha ha, Tesla loser." The police responded by saying, yeah, keep driving," and professionally keeping their other thoughts to themselves. Martin is currently waiting to hear whether his car will be totaled. The estimated repair cost is $31,500. Martin wanted to give a shout out to Tesla Dave, a local Tesla repair shop run by his friend's father, which he found to be superior to other authorized third-party shops. Do you believe in magic? If not, please explain this. Joseph was approaching a toll booth when a barrier materialized in front of him from thin air. Let's take a look at that one more time. Come on, where did that thing even come from? Suta was driving his Model 3 on a UK motorway when traffic came to a complete stop in the right lane. A driver swerved to the left to avoid crashing into the car in front of them, only to hit a semi-trailer instead. Thankfully, everyone involved was okay. Kevin was driving down a highway when the car in front of him ran over a hubcap. It flew up and damaged the left side of his front bumper cover and the left fog light of his Model 3. Luckily, his paint was protected by paint protection film. Unfortunately, the PPF was torn and now needs to be replaced. Tommy was driving in Norway when he encountered Spider-Man out jogging in a blizzard. Tommy apologizes for the short clip, but he accidentally honked the horn twice in excitement. He told us this guy is actually a real hero. Apparently, he does great things to help out the community, all while remaining anonymous behind his Spider-Man mask. We had to look this up, and it's true. Meet your friendly Norway neighborhood Spider-Man. James was in the left lane of a 2-lane road that goes through his town. A woman changed lanes without looking and came within inches of sideswiping him. The video looks bad, but James says only her mirror bumped his car, and his frantic honking kept her from continuing the merge and causing a worse accident. After James followed her for a while, she eventually pulled over. When he asked for her information, she made it up. James had to contact the police and make a report. Mortiz was just about to leave a supercharger in Germany when he noticed an SUV waiting near the entrance. The driver of the SUV was eyeing the Teslas. Mortiz figured he was either really interested in Teslas or he was waiting to roll coal on someone. I'm gonna give you a moment to place your bets. Do you think the SUV driver was A, a Tesla fan, or B, a diesel fan? Okay, here we go. Mortiz approached the exit of the supercharger and boom! He was enveloped by a cloud of dinosaur soot. We'll just let the video keep rolling because he actually got coal rolled 3 times. We've gotta say, it seems like Germany's coal rollers are even worse than America's. I wonder if this is because German car makers aren't very happy with the shift to a new technology that is being dominated by an American company. Giorgio lives in the Italian Alps, an area close to several nice mountain passes. When the weather is good, swarms of bikers arrive. Giorgio says, unfortunately, the bikers think of themselves as MotoGP champion Valentino Rossi, taking risks and sometimes getting in accidents. But Italy isn't just famous for MotoGP riders, they also have a pretty good Formula 1 team. So of course, these mountain passes also attract some four-wheeled wannabes. This clip is almost identical to the last, but this time, it's a car heading straight for Giorgio. This emitter was driving his Model 3 in Belgium. We're gonna run this video in slow motion so we have time to tell you the backstory. This emitter told us he was legally overtaking the car in front of him when he saw 2 drivers ahead were braking because the first wanted to make a 90-degree left turn. Traffic had already stacked up against the vehicle in the front, so he had no way to merge back into the lane. This emitter told us that overtaking cars have the right of way against someone turning across opposing traffic, so he decided to continue. Just before overtaking the car, he slowed down and flashed his headlights to get the driver's attention, then proceeded, all perfectly legal. Unfortunately, the driver had no clue the emitter was coming up behind him and turned in front of the emitter. The other driver immediately raised his hand as if to say that the emitter was at fault for the collision. When he got out of the car, the first thing he asked our emitter was if he'd seen his turn signal. After sending his dashcam footage, the emitter's insurance provider immediately responded that his overtake was legal and that the other driver was in the wrong. The total cost of repairs was over $10,000 US. Patrick was driving home when he started to pass an Amazon delivery truck. Suddenly, it started smoking. At first, Patrick told his wife that he thought it was rolling coal, but then he realized the smoke was white. Most likely, something was either actually on fire or at least experiencing a major malfunction. Patrick thinks maybe a brake got stuck. Does anyone know? He slowed down since his visibility was impaired and went behind the truck to give himself more follow distance. Eventually, the truck turned, still smoking. Maybe that's why my package is so late. Remember Francesco, the guy who was rear-ended in a highway tunnel in Italy? He just picked up his new Tesla, but it didn't take long for him to find trouble again. This time, he was driving along a road really close to the tunnel from the previous accident. When he slowed down for traffic ahead, he heard a loud crash behind him. He checked his right side view mirror and saw the wrecked car. He wasn't sure if he'd been hit or not, so he pulled over to check for any damage, thinking to himself, "Oh, please, not again. Oh, please, not again." While pulling over, he noticed the other driver was starting to drive off like nothing had happened. He rolled down his window and told Francesco that he was sure there wasn't any damage to the Tesla since he'd swerved to avoid it, hitting the guardrail instead. Francesco double-checked his story and confirmed that there wasn't any damage. The other driver seemed to be unconcerned about what had happened, so Francesco told him and the girl in the passenger seat that he could send them a keepsake video as a memento. They laughed. Before the driver drove away, he told Francesco he knew that Teslas film everything and he wouldn't be surprised if he ended up on that YouTube channel. Right on, man, here you are. Felix was heading home after a day of snowboarding in the Swiss Alps. While traveling through a small town, he noticed a man with a walker get stuck at a railroad crossing while the gates were lowering. Felix put his car in park and hurried over to rescue the man. Great job, Felix! Jan was driving his Model 3 in Switzerland when a woman in a white Volkswagen Passat pulled out in front of an oncoming car. Due to bad weather conditions and a very slippery road, there was no way the oncoming Subaru driver, at least Jan says it's a Subaru, would have been able to brake to avoid the accident. Is that actually a Subaru? Car spotters, grab your keyboards. He was driving to visit his parents when he encountered a flying trailer. Hold on, that's 2 flying trailers. Luckily, he was able to stop, but he says he also felt the car helping him to brake. He isn't sure who saved the day. 5 men got out of the van to collect the trailers, so Petter continued on his drive. Paul was driving in Denmark when he witnessed this week's Tesla behaving badly. He approached a Tesla Model 3 that was stopped behind a clearly marked driver's education vehicle. The Model 3 driver couldn't bring himself to give the student driver space and used his instant torque to squeeze in front of them when they hesitated while making a turn. I think this one definitely deserves the jingle.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
This submitter was going grocery shopping with his 2 kids in their Model 3 when an oncoming driver fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into the left side of their car. Fortunately, the speeds were low and nobody was injured. A police van was a few cars behind the sleepy driver and they were helping out within a few seconds. They breathalyzed both of them before issuing a warning to the driver who'd caused the accident. The estimated cost to repair the car is around $20,000 US, and completing repairs should take around 2 months. This submitter was driving 2 friends home when a Volvo spun out and crashed after the driver tried to drift. The driver, who was alone in the car, quickly exited and collected his front bumper cover, the only thing damaged aside from his pride. Our submitter asked if he was okay, and he said that he was. Tonino was driving in the countryside around Paris when 3 wild pigs decided to cross the road. These wild pigs are very common in the French countryside, and Tonino told us the group of Tesla owners he belongs to often share images of collisions with these animals. Thankfully, he was able to avoid hitting them and the high repair bill that would have resulted. Those pigs weigh somewhere between 165 and 200 pounds. That's not something you want to run your car into. Simon was driving with Autopilot engaged in Sweden. He was in the left lane while passing 2 buses in the right lane. All of a sudden, a car appeared from between the buses. Autopilot reacted as Simon slammed on the brakes. Simon says it happened so fast he can't remember if Autopilot did anything, but he does remember taking control and stomping on the brake. He doesn't remember swerving to the left. He thinks that was Autopilot. Vlad was driving his Model Y with Autopilot engaged outside of Paris, France. An ambulance without emergency lights active suddenly changed lanes without signaling or checking for traffic. Vlad told us his Tesla dropped from 80 miles per hour to 70 and swerved to avoid a collision before he had time to react. Vlad's passengers later told him the ambulance driver was mortified and could see that he'd made a mistake. Tomeo and his family were returning from a trip to the French Alps via a winding road through a mountain pass. Oh man, doesn't watching this give you the heebie-jeebies? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? First was a sign warning of a sharp turn, and then a sign warning the road was slippery. Hold on. And there it is. It wasn't our submitter who crashed, but an oncoming driver who was driving way too fast for conditions before spinning out and crashing into the rocks. The driver was okay, and after putting his front bumper cover in the back of his car, he was able to continue driving down the mountain. There happened to be another Tesla right behind the car when it crashed. Hold on, let me remotely access and extract its Teslacam footage. Beep boop, and here we go. Wait, did I do that right? Uh-oh, looks like I broke YouTube again. Well, I'll see you all next week.